get through this.
Easy for listening. I wasn't able to do it. Easy for dancing. I'm not a great lover of cats. That's my fear.
You're a disgrace, you are.
Not me. That's my fear.
You're a disgrace, you are.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Have Your Say, one-on-one shadowboxing. Today my guest at WTV Studios, Peter Jeffrey, who is one of my best friends, if not the best friend of mine in Australia, he is. So, and Peter is now here to represent, and he is the co-coordinator of the West Australian Poetry Inc.
That's correct.
Peter, tell me about how do you get into writing?
Well, it's a long story, but writing, as we know, is one of the most powerful forms of communication. And my parents were deaf and dumb. And because they were deaf and dumb, I basically, even as a little boy of maybe 3 to 4 years of age, actually helped interpret the world for my parents. And in due course, I was taken to the local cinemas, and we went there almost as regular as watching television, 4 nights a week, I think it was. And basically, my mother would be sitting by me, and she'd say, "What is happening? What is happening?" And I'd say, wait. And then I would tell her. And as a consequence of having explained and articulated that area, I was helping the inarticulate articulate. And as a consequence of that, it came naturally to me that I would start to want to communicate my own ideas, my own ways, and of course, writing. So I actually won English Literature Prize at training college when I became a primary school teacher. And so on and so on. But it was basically to help my mother join the world, as it were, in every shape and form. And at the same time, my brother became a projectionist, and I became a lecturer in film and television. And you know, and I know, we both pioneered community television in this state.
That's a nice little story. You are more lucky than me, because when I try to interpret my parents' views, I did not receive that much of reception. So you are lucky. But I still wanted to convince them. And that's how I get into poetry and writing. So what was your way to poetry then? Because writing is a little bit different from poetry. If I'm not wrong, I'm not sure if I'm right.
No, you're quite right. As a student, I was at a very gifted school. We all know Perth Modern School. It was a scholarship school. And as I progressed through it, in my junior year, what was called junior in those days, I had a wonderful man called Gerald Hare, and he, in fact, was a great high jumper, from what I gather, and also a commando in Timor, you know. And he sort of really did encourage me. And then the following year, I had this amazing man called Norm Kirkham. And Norm turned around one day and he said to me, he said, "Look, Peter, I know you like short stories, and I know you like Americans, and I know you like English literature, etc., etc. But why don't you like poetry?" And I said, "Oh, well, it's not much of a thing, is it?" He said, "Oh, yeah." And so he set me the challenge. And in the final year at Mod, I did have the last poem in the school annual. And that's Why We Fight, or something like that. Very anti-war.
So that's
That was
your
the
way.
beginning of my poetic career.
For poetry. Yes. Writing. I mean, Peter, in the 21st century, we realize that young people, mainly, they read less and less. So why to write?
Well, I think there is a sense, for example, they said newspapers were going to die and that it would all be digitalised and, if you like, turned into a sort of tap feeding of visual images with a little bit of commentary underneath. And obviously that is on YouTube, we know, it's on the clips, it's on Twitter, it's everywhere like that. But against that is the notion of it is the most intricate form of recording and maintaining a reference point. We know, because you and I have seen it, that video at this stage is very, very hard to keep permanent. We know that even the microfiches in the library do crack up and they fade away. So
They got a solution for that now.
yes, go on.
The supercrystal balls.
Right.
And that keeps it for, it's an estimate, for
Yes.
2 or 3 billion years, all the information which is there.
Well, we're there.
Without
We've arrived
renewing.
into the kingdom.
Without
But-
renewing or refreshing it. So anyway, but I understand, yes?
Yeah, and the truth of the matter too, though, is that when we go back into the past and we look at, say, the Dead Sea Scrolls or anything like that, that has come about through writing and it has been preserved. And of course the famous Rosetta Stone that made Egyptology the great science that it became. And for all they said newspapers were going to die, they reckon more and more people are returning to the paper.
Want to buy papers.
For sure. But
Hopefully not in Perth, because you got only one paper.
I know.
And that has no substance. Sorry, guys, that is the truth. But if we're going to get another one, maybe. Sorry, Peter. Okay, writing. So writing is still important.
Yeah.
That's your belief. And so many other people think the same way,
For
I
sure.
think, as you are.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about writers, we are imagining a writer's center, where people sitting around and they creatively bouncing things around each other, and they call the writers' center. So have we got a writers' center in
we've got
WA?
at least 4 of them.
Oh,
3 are actual and physical, and the 4th, which I represent, WA Poets Incorporated, is virtual. But that doesn't alter the fact that it's got its own online magazine. It works in with the disability people through Creative Connections, which is an annual exhibition of art from handicapped people, etc. So there's sort of a sense where that physical space, that desire to be with others in the same occupation is very, very much still in existence. And the beauty of the 3 writing centres, apart from ourselves, is that they're all historically based. If, for example, we wanted a West Australian literary tradition, then you have to say Whawa, which was all the West Australian writers, and at the same time you say Catherine Susanna Pritchard, that lively red witch that lived up in up in above Midland, and equally Peter Cowan, where the Hollis Bolus took his very, very gifted mother's cottage and deposited it at Edith Cowan at Joondalup.
so writing center, which are creative ones. Have these writers who belong to writing centers or outside of writing centers got problems with today's compared with
definitely.
yesterday's?
Yes. Well, we know that West Australia is often boom and bust, and we know that our government did not really, in its heyday, in its day where it had accumulated so much wealth, plan for the future in a way that led to a fair distribution, especially to the arts. So one of the first victims in contraction will be the arts, because there is no political clout for the arts, as opposed to you saying, we've got to look after the little child that's dying in the hospital. In other words, the medical dollar and the sports dollar and defence dollar are certainly going to be maintained at the expense of that. And yet Churchill said, couldn't you cut down on defence spending, on the arts spending to enhance our military defence? And he said, what the hell are we fighting for? In other words, writing and literature and culture, if you like, the soul of the people. And they need to have that expressed in a very, very vital form. They don't need to have it ripped again and again and again and squashed and obliterated.
But if you are bringing up Churchill,
Yep.
that's I suppose Winston Churchill
Yep.
from the United Kingdom,
Yep.
he was an artist himself.
Correct.
So-
he was a Sunday painter. You're
Yes.
right.
So show me an artist, apart from bullshit artist in the West Australian government.
And who knows, Barnett himself may have written some poems hidden away in some little college magazine.
We don't know that, but it doesn't look like that because the support of art
Yes.
in here is not as flashy as can be.
Sure.
But on that note, Peter, we have to
Yeah.
go to a short break.
Yes.
Please stay with us because after the break, we're coming back more on Have Your Say, one-on-one shadowboxing with Peter Jeffries. Hello and welcome back to One-on-One Shadowboxing. Have Your Say with Peter Jeffries, my friend Peter. So we realized that we got a bit of problem with the financing of the art or the writers' activities in this state.
That's correct.
We got a fabulous prize of the Premier's Prize,
Yep.
which Colin Barnett is just giving away every year in the
Yeah.
past few years.
And then, only a year ago, they contracted it to once every 2 years. So there you are.
So there's too much of occupation, probably not because we not have money, guys,
No.
because he's too occupied with other important things. So
For sure.
much practical to do it once every 2 years.
And
So
then
that's-
every 4 years.
And then every 4 years, and then it's just disappeared. The next premier don't even need to do the prize.
Right.
So apart from the price is cut back severely, halved,
Yeah.
then what other administrative problems with the department
All right.
writers can
Well,
face with,
well,
or
well,
in the system itself?
For sure.
You know, art.
All right. Even the Department of Culture and the Arts, which I think only maintains one element of what a really good Department of Culture and the Arts would do, it is very much concerned with celebrity figures or career paths, economic argumentation for what the arts actually bring as an economic factor, possibly in the areas of publishing and areas of tourism, etc. Against that, they still have lost sight of, I guess, that spirit of what it means for all of us. Writing itself is the seedbed of all things. If you think even the architect, he has his brief written. If you think of the doctor scanning you, his report is obviously written. So what has happened is that sort of writing congeals and then becomes in its own forms, genres. The first of those forms, by the way, was poetry, which is pattern making of words. And that's what I'm there for, to represent it as powerfully as I can. But yes, what has happened is that they have cut back, you wouldn't believe it, on the people that are employed in the Department for the Arts. I think they're going to lose 30, 40, 50 people. And that's in a time when I feel we need the arts more than ever. And the minister has said that he basically just wants the whole lot transferred, holus bolus, to the state library. Then you pick up the paper and you see that libraries are going to lose, cuts will mean fewer services. And so they're cutting down. They're saying that libraries will only be open 4 days a week, etc., etc.
You don't need to read every day of the week, Peter, so you don't need the bloody library to be open. I want to read.
It might be the only place we can retreat to get some sense and sensibility about.
But on the other
what's
hand,
happening in
the government are crying their eyes out because of the literacy of our young people is almost, they say, it's lacking. It's zero. They couldn't read. They couldn't write.
So that begs that question that you asked me right at the very beginning. Why writing? What is writing all about? And what is happening is that more and more money is being pushed into literacy. Obviously, common sense says we do want English-speaking migrants when they come to enjoy, I guess, the dominant language form. And in fact, in some countries, they are very, very ruthlessly insistent about that. Against that, I guess, is the notion that through literacy, you begin to get these clusters of what people say quality or excellence or a certain sort of sense of the spirituality of the people, as it were. And as a consequence of that, literature comes about. So you are correct, though. We are getting to be a culture of the quick fix. And also, even this form that we're in right now probably is contributing in part to it. And when you think of the video clips and Twitter, literacy is on the edge.
For me, obviously, writing is nothing more than a way of storytelling.
Yes.
And storytelling is very important because even those ugly Hollywood blockbusters, which are sometimes, you know, the worst things in the world, they can use and can made only if the script is written.
Definitely.
So that's all starts, those ugly movies, those billions of dollars of stupidity from the United States of America, is based on writing.
All right.
How wonderful is that?
Can I get back to the reason why I feel I'm here, having my say, is what we want from the government.
That was my next question.
Through their set of reviews, which we are only too happy to help them with in regard to that, is that they pay a particular attention to writing groups because they are community centres. And as a consequence...
Creative community centres.
Exactly, thank you. And more than that, they basically enhance your sense of local identity. You have local histories, you have oral transcripts of the old people that lived in the town or whatever. And as a consequence, they must not be lost. They must not be starved. They must not be, as I said, obliterated. And so in these reviews, we are saying to the government, be very alert as to the fundamental role of the writing centre and make quite sure that even if you can't give them core funding because of the time of extremities, at the same time you can at least give them stimulus funding. Set them a challenge and they will write and meet it. because most of the writing centres currently already do not draw very much on state funding. They are working towards self-sufficiency all the time.
We know that art never could be self-sufficient, except Hollywood art, which is bullshit art, can be self-sufficient, nothing else in the world. So it all needs support from the communities, from the authorities and from the government, because that's how our well-being can be maintained. And I believe strongly in that philosophy. But I don't think myself, that's just my opinion, that politicians can understand these things, or they would like to understand it rather than can. Back to poetry. What is your hope for the future for poetry?
Well, believe it or not, this year we've worked towards what we call outreach. We did a wonderful reading of poetry down on the beach at the Scarborough by the Sea. Talk about sculpture by the sea, poetry by the sea. And as the sun set, we read in that lovely little amphitheatre there, and basically the families, as they were going home, some of them stopped and enjoyed what we were presenting. And the young people especially gathered around, and at least 8 or 9 of Perth's best poets were reading, and there was some lovely musical interludes as well. So a very, very fine entertainment. And we're reaching out to shire after shire. Our principal funding with WA Poets Inc. Comes through the generous office of the Perth City Council, and they've maintained their help and sustenance for many years now, because they do realise that poetry is a very unique form. You can't measure it necessarily by how many bums on seats.
No.
Because that's what the number crunchers like. We have to say, no, there's something else that happens when you are listening to what one person said, the best possible words in the best possible order.
That sounds really promising, Peter, for the future. And what is your part?
Okay, well, our big drive, year in, year out, sometimes in very dark days, but we maintain continuity so that we are now in the 12th year of the Poetry Festival. It occurs in August, and this year it will run from what we call Australian Poetry Day right through a whole week, something like 7 or 8 days. Last year it was 4 days, but we thought, no,
stretch it for a week.
We can do more than that, and so we are doing that. We are also combining lots of little sub activities with the writing centres, because each of them obviously have poets in themselves. And we do know that even the libraries sustain some creative writing classes, and we do invite them at any stage or time to become involved with us.
Peter, thank you for coming in, and good luck for the future of writing and poetry.
Thank you.
Don't forget, next week, same time, same channel. Have your say. One-on-one shadow boxing.
You're a disgrace, you are.